Okay, we are back. Another Saturday, another day in the office. Today, what I'd like to do is actually run through the process that we went through at YAA to raise venture capital. When I founded YAA back in December of 2019, I'd never raised venture capital before. Today, I'll walk you through the steps I took from knowing no one in venture capital, never having raised any form of investment, whether it's venture-backed or angel or anything. I'll show you what we did, give you some pointers and tips now that I've raised over $4.5 million, or we've raised over $4.5 million, and let you know what I would have done differently as well. With that as the stage, I'm just going to share my screen and literally show you what we did way back when to raise money. Okay, so Flybridge Capital. Check them out, flybridge.com. They led a pre-seed round in YAA. So what is a pre-seed round? So traditionally, there's been a seed funding, which is usually family and friends, and then you move on to different series of fundraising, Series A, Series B, Series C, each series representing more capital brought into the business and getting further along in the business's trajectory or story arc per se. A pre-seed has preempted the seed round, and it's really this idea of family and friends pooling money together, but more and more actual institutional investors like a Flybridge Capital or other, traditional seed stage or Series A stage investors are getting into the pre-seed space. I knew that. I knew I also had the capacity to invest in the business as well, a non-trivial amount. And by being a founder and investing in the business, that would be beneficial in showing hey, there's some commitment here, especially when you're a college dropout. So I got Flybridge to invest $250,000 in our pre-seed round. How the heck did I do that? I didn't know anyone at Flybridge. Let me walk you through it. So the first thing I did was they're community-based. Their whole thesis is businesses will benefit by having strong communities. So I researched their partners. So I went to Flybridge team and I saw their partners here. And then I clicked on literally every single partner's profile to read more about them. The partner that I ended up building a relationship with was this man, Jesse Middleton. Jesse's a great guy. Jesse, like every other venture capital partner out there, needs what's called deal flow. He needs interesting companies coming to him and saying hey, we want your money. We want you to own a part of our business and propel us forward with your investment and with your expertise. You can see Jesse has an open office hours with a Calendly link and his email address. So what did I do? I scheduled time on his calendar and I sent him a cold email introducing myself and saying hey, this is who I am and why I think you might be interested in what we're doing. And I can actually go all the way back in my email inbox to September. Literally a year ago was when I set up my first call with Jesse a year ago. I'm filming this on September 25th, 2021. So it's been literally a year since I made my initial introduction to Jesse. And we set that call up. Call went really well. It was 15 or maybe 30 minutes over the phone, just the phone. I mean, we weren't on a Zoom or anything like that. And this was, when we were in the midst of the pandemic, right? We were just getting accustomed to doing things online. And look at the cadence here. We had this call on the 25th. We had the call on the 29th, excuse me. I sent an email in advance of the call, right, to say, hey, thank you, show some interest, show some effort, remind them, hey, we have this call. And then I started sending updates. On October 3rd, I was BCCing this email out to anyone and everyone who took an interest in YAA, and I was telling them, hey, here's what's going on. We made $14,000 from YouTube this month. Look at that. It was a decrease, from August, but there you go. You have the info. And I just started sending and sharing information. And eventually, I got this email. Yeah, I sent the pitch deck. Yeah, I followed up immediately, right? Here's the pitch deck. Here's some stuff that I guess I was proud of. Yeah, look, we're helping people. We're helping people look at that, right? So I'm trying to, build interest and show credibility here. Here's a final iteration of the deck. I mean, look at this follow-up. I apologize for spamming your email inbox. I know you're very busy, but I was just showing stuff, right? Overall, I enjoyed using it. I was just trying to build a case for why he should be interested in YAA. I want to follow up with you on all this. I love what you're building. Wonder if you'd be down to give an update and pitch to my partners. That was a big first step. So went through, did the pitch, all of that fun stuff, and we got Jesse on board. We ended up closing that pre-seed series back in December, right around Christmas time, right before Christmas time. I ended up taking the train up to New York one day to meet him face to face to show him that, hey, I'm a real person, and we were able to seal the deal. Now, part of why I think we were able to seal the deal and what worked well here, I invested $150,000. So They invested 250,000. I invested 150,000. We had $80,000 in other commitments from other angel investors that I was able to, some of them were my college roommates. One was actually someone who used to advertise on our YouTube videos, who I had built a rapport with. So like we built up a small little syndicate of investors. But I think one of the big things that gave Flybridge a lot of confidence, because 250 to them, they have $100 million plus fund. I mean, it's a small bet, but it gets them a foot in the door in terms of follow-up funding, and it gets them an opportunity to maybe get a decent chunk of equity at a really, really low valuation. The business wasn't worth a lot when they made the initial investment. So I was able to invest 150,000. You might not be able to. So what can you do to overcome that? I think following the steps that I did here as well, simply just providing as much information as possible to really make it crystal clear that, you're not some fly-by-night entrepreneur. You really have a vision here. The deeper you can get into the thing that's going to work well, if you can't invest your own money or you can't invest that amount of money, transparency. Just be as transparent as possible. Every single general partner at these funds is getting bombarded with contacts from people with really, really terrible outreach, right? Like kind of cookie cutter and things like that. So be transparent, be open, and also take an interest in them and learn about them. Like I was Google searching Jesse left, right. I mean, every single night trying to learn as much as I could about him and his story. And that ties in with kind of the next piece, which was we got the pre-seed round, right? So as a team, then we needed to execute as best as we could, show progress, and then we were able to raise more serious venture capital. And that's where we actually really recently, in July of this year, of 2021, we closed on $4.2 million. So total, we've raised, I guess, $4.78 million. So like $4.5 million in capital for the business, which is awesome because now we're in a position, we're hiring, by the way, join yaa.com/careers. Join the team, please. You don't have to work on Saturdays like I do. No, I like to work on Saturdays. Anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked. So we raised more venture capital. How the heck did we do that? By having the pre-seed investor, by having Jesse on board, when we were able to pitch him again, and I mean, to be clear, when we were working together during this pre-seed period, I'm talking to him weekly. I'm sending him updates. I'm continuing to be transparent. I'm texting with him. I'm calling him. I'm looking for his advice and his support, right? So we have really strong rapport at this point. And and communicating like, hey, this is when I think we're going to target to raise more capital. Here's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? And he's supportive and on board. And then he puts me through the ringer, right? Okay, go pitch all my partners again. Make sure that we can pressure test this. And once I got Flybridge, once I got Jesse to really support and say, okay, let's go raise more money. You guys have a shot at building something special here. Then the game really changed. I hate to call it a game, but then the reality changed. What's beautiful and beneficial about having a lead investor is they'll open doors to others who will fill the round. Fill the round meaning your lead investor isn't going to write a $4.2 million check. I mean, at least in our case, they didn't. And I think that's fairly typical. Typically, they'll put in maybe half or a little less than half. All of these different venture capital funds have ownership targets. And if you want me to do a video on what I've learned about ownership targets and how much equity you can expect to give up when you're raising venture capital, comment down below, let me know. I'll do that. I'll share with you as much as I've learned about it up to this point. But your lead funder is going to put about half of the money in. So we had half the money, like in theory, committed, and it was nothing like in paper. Although we had, you end up doing, oh man, what's it called? It's not a letter of intent. It's a, I honestly forget. I will put it on the screen when I do the research. I'll put it like right there, somewhere down there. What the word's called. When you agree in principle to the terms of the funding round. But that's where your lead funder is going to open up their, not their checkbook, their contact book. Man, I'm struggling with words right now. But they're going to introduce you to other venture capital funds that they think will be complementary or beneficial. We actually had NextView Ventures, another fund that's actually really similar to Flybridge, but I have read the general partner there, Rob Go, his blog since I was a senior in high school, freshman in college, so had super high affinity for Rob, and I actually got introduced to him by another peer in my network who did have a lot of VC connections, and they co-led our fundraising. But that's kind of like the process, right? Is you get one person on board, you really, really sell them and make sure that they're really excited. Then they're going to open up into their network. They're going to make introductions for you. And then what do you do during that fundraising period? You have to have a deck. You have to have a very succinct and compelling story. And you need to be able to sell the vision and show your excitement for what you're working on. And at this point, when we were raising the 4.2, when we were raising the seed instead of the pre-seed, show more traction, right? Because you've already raised some money. So like, what progress have you made and where's the momentum? And then the actual like the technical components of raising money is like really painful, and especially as a first-time founder going through this, in initial time, it's a lot of documents. You're going to be reading and reviewing hundreds of pages of different documents. They come, the actual legal paperwork come from what are called model documents, but then they get modified. Your term sheet, that's the word I was looking for earlier. You sign a term sheet, which is not binding in any stretch. It just means that you agree in principle to the terms of your fundraising. That term sheet gets translated into the actual 100+ pages, your revised articles of incorporation, the amended charter to the state, wherever you've got your corporation, all of that fun stuff. All of that then has to happen based on the term sheet. That is a real pain in the tuchus, because it takes so much time and it's super involved, and you're not necessarily spending that time then working on the product or talking to customers and all of that fun stuff. But okay, to recap, also, lights behind me went out. Always fun at the office. To recap, how the heck did we raise venture capital $4.78 million in venture capital when I had no connections, no one that I knew in the space? How do we do it? Cold email. Really, really did a good job selling on the initial conversation I had with Jesse. And then also, I think being transparent and really letting him see everything that I was seeing and being authentic about that. I was benefited, put an asterisk next to this one because not everyone can do this, but I benefited from being able to contribute an incredible, to me, what's a lot of money into our fundraise, so that helped as well. To raise the 4.2, the additional seed funding that we got, or the more substantial seed funding that we got, sold the pre-seed investor. They opened their network. They helped get everyone else excited. Kind of like the things to be aware of going through that process are succinct story to tell, showing the momentum, showing how excited you are, selling the vision, and be prepared to review a heck of a lot of legalese. One other thing I want to bring up and share. There is an awesome, I have Lee Jacobs' profile up here because Lee is actually an investor in YAA through his fund, Long Journey Ventures. But I have up here this website, Cyan's an investor as well. It's this URL. I don't know if this is like, I don't know. So I don't know if I'm supposed to share this. I don't know if this is like secretive. I have no clue, but I'm going to put it in the link in the description. This signal.nfx.com/investor list. This is awesome. This is a great place to look if you are looking to raise venture capital, or if you're looking to get a job at a startup and you want to figure out which startups you're interested in. Find the venture firms that are backing startups in the sectors you're interested in. Go to their websites, go through to the startup website, apply for jobs. Anyway, they've broken everything out by seed stage, Series A stage, or Series B stage VC funds by whatever category you could ever imagine. So if you're someone who wants to do a semiconductor startup and you're at the seed stage, here are the folks that typically invest in that space. And then you can click on them. And I haven't checked against Philip Stauffer here. I've never used the call to action here for get intro or anything. I don't have an account. But if I were in your shoes and I'm trying to figure out, okay, how do I contact Philip? I don't know Philip. Here's what I'm doing. Let's see if we can make this work. Search in Google. Find in LinkedIn. Click in so I do have a few mutual connections. So I would first thing I would do is reach out to my mutual connections and say, hey, how closely do you know Philip? Can you make an intro? Would you feel comfortable? Then I'm clicking on contact info. Great. He has a website. So I'm going to his website. Typically what I look for on websites are contact information. So I don't see his contact information here, but what I am going to do is I'm going to read a few of his posts because I want to make sure that I can make cognizant and authentic outreach and actually figure out if Philip's the right person for me to talk to as well. With the link back to the venture capital website, so I'll click on that. Let's see, so they've got to contact us. Yeah, that just takes you to a mail to address, right? Which is their general. So I'd probably send the email to the general. The one other thing that I'll do is I will go to hunter.io, which is a fun tool, And you have to create a free account nowadays. Create a free account, and what you do is you put in the domain name, and they'll tell you the pattern of the email address if they have it in their database. Let's go back, though. We have Twitter. I doubt his contact info is going to be on his Twitter. Yeah, it's not. But that's kind of the process that you would go through. Also hit the back button. Whoops, gotta love the LinkedIn UI. Somewhere on here, I'm looking for contact information, and I'm also looking for ways to confirm that he's someone who would actually be interested in what I'm doing, because again, he's in that semiconductor space. So I'll put the link to this in the description down below. This list from Signal is super solid in terms of finding investors in specific fields that you're interested in. Yeah, I didn't really use it that much. I mean, I did use it actually a considerable amount, but we didn't raise any money from like this particular list, but doesn't mean you won't or you shouldn't. Okay, questions that you have about venture capital, put them down in the description. Maybe I'll even do, I'll definitely do more videos about venture capital. Also, maybe I'll do a live stream with like a Q&A about VC. I don't know. Let me know down below. My name's Zach Shefska. Join YAA.com. Join YAA.com/careers, because again, we are hiring. And if you're still watching at this point, thank you. Really appreciate it. Have a good day.